The Sacred Mass, Chapter 11, Fair Chance. Allan happily hugged Caron, and Caron tried to kiss Allan, but his friend just pushed him away. The two started to leave the dark smithy, and Caron stepped on something and he picked it up. It was a small little rag doll without a head. Caron showed the doll to Allan, and the doll was dressed like a king, and on his sash she read the name King Wodonax. Allan imagined that this was a message from his father Helmer. Helmer did like to play with dolls when he found himself alone, and sometimes Allan would find little dolls hidden behind books. When Allan asked his father about the dolls, Helmer would claim that it was a surprise gift for Marina. Allan was thoughtful. Laughing, he said, "I guess Dad finally killed that bastard. Good riddance," I said. "And what did he do to your dad, to deserve death?" asked Caron. "He turned my dad into a stud horse. That was just a little kid when he had me. Isn't that reason enough? And I can only imagine how much my poor dad suffered at the hands of that succubus that caused her so, my mother. And I hope he decapitates her as well," barked Allan, going on a fury rant. A day passed, and Allan and Caron returned to Gregory close to lunchtime. Before their arrival, Bron was looking through Greg's stuff again, and this time he found a little black sketchbook. And he opened it and he saw the drawings of the elementals, and Bron assumed that they were sketches of what Gregory hallucinated when he took the mystery dust. Inanis was in the form of a black cat sitting by the window, and she was watching the birds pass by. Bron quietly retrieved the mystery bag and Priscilla, and on the way out he stepped on a little figurine and it cracked. An eyeball appeared on the back of the cat, and the cat's head turned in an unnatural fashion. Inanis regarded Bron coolly. "What are you doing?" "I am tidying up this mess. What does it look like I'm doing?" said Bron, picking up the stuff from the floor. "Greg always cleans after himself when he's done playing. He will be back soon," said Inanis. "When he shows up, I want to talk to him," said Bron. Inanis returned to her bird watching, and Greg was in the middle of receiving Allan and Caron, and he noticed that Caron had a little gift box, and Greg went to open it, but Caron protested. "It is not for you, and today is Bron's birthday, so I got him a little something so that he doesn't think that his little brother has forgotten all about him." "Good. He seems so tense lately," remarked Greg. "And whose fault is that, I wonder?" said Allan, laughing. "We should make him a cake," suggested Greg. "A cake?" asked Caron. "Yes, people celebrate birthdays with a cake. At least my parents did. And I know all of my mother's baking recipes, and I bet we can make him a nice cake, and then maybe he'll stop hating me," said Greg. Inanis came downstairs to the kitchen, and she said, "The ogre wants to see you." "Do you want me to go with you?" asked Caron. "It'll be fine," said Greg, "and I'm going to write you a mini list of the ingredients we're missing, and see if you and Allan can find them." Allan read the list, and he said, "Neat, a fresh berry sponge cake, my favorite." "Well, I figure that Bron eats a lot of berries, so maybe he'll like this," said Greg shyly. Caron hesitated a moment, but then Allan decided for him by taking him to the market. Greg took a deep breath, and then he went to see what Bron wanted. Bron was waiting for him in the tea room, and the fireplace was raging behind him. Bron heard Greg approaching, and he started making scissor sounds. When Greg entered, he saw Bron with Priscilla, and Greg took a deep breath to scream, but Bron said, "Let's both calm down and talk like civilized men. Otherwise little Dolly's going in the fireplace." Greg placed both his hands in prayer position to try to hold in his nerve, and his nails were slowly digging into his hands. Bron asked, throwing the little bag onto the table, "Care to explain this?" It is medicine," said Greg in a trembling voice. And Bron scissored a small strand of Priscilla's rag hair. Greg flinched, and crying he said, "I take it for my heartburn. I mix it with water. Ask Sophina. She will tell you that I speak the truth." Bron placed his scissors around Priscilla's neck, and Greg prostrated himself with his hands in prayer position. It was then when Lord Siegfried opened the door to the tea room. Bron did not expect to see his adopted father walking about. Lord Siegfried said sternly, "Bron, give him back the doll." "But," protested Bron. "Stop being a bully. Can you see that the boy is crying?" said Lord Siegfried calmly. Bron returned the doll grudgingly to Greg, and Greg ran away quickly. He breathed a sigh of relief when he left the tea room. He made his way towards the kitchen, and it was then when he became aware of his hands that were bleeding. He started to wash his hands with vigor, And then he noticed that Priscilla was stained with blood as well, and it was then when Caron and Allan returned with the ingredients. Allan saw the doll in Greg's hands, and he took Priscilla and said, I'm going to have Marina wash Priscilla for you, and she knows how to get those nasty bloodstains out. And don't worry, she will be gentle with the doll. Thank you, Allan, said Greg, smiling timidly. Caron looked at Greg's hands, and then he went to the supply closet for some soap and bandages. And once he cleaned the wounds, Caron asked, and tell me the instructions. I'm going to bake the cake for you. While the cake's layers were being baked, Caron set about making the frosting, and he was about to put chocolate on it, but Greg said, I don't really like the taste of chocolate. Now that is something special, commented Caron. Well, it is your brother's cake, and on second sight, just make it the way he likes, said Greg. It is your recipe, so no chocolate, and we can try condensed milk instead, said Caron. Delicious, said Greg. Caron, when were you born? I was born a few days ago, said Caron. So that makes you 18 now. Good, what a relief. I'm almost 20. It seems like the proper age gap, said Greg, smiling timidly. Ah, I see. And you worry about the silliest things, Gregory, said Caron flatly. The two talked about nothing in particular while baking, and Greg suddenly turned serious and he said, While you were away, I had the most dreadful nightmare, and I dreamed that a monster had stolen you and that he had hurt you, and then you jumped off a cliff. And I tried to save you, but my wings were broken, and they would not flap, and I ended up smashing myself against the rocks. It was just a dream, said Caron, and there's no need to stress about hypotheticals. Caron, I want you to have been honest, and don't go outside without her, okay? Insisted Greg. I am not as helpless as I appear to be, Gregory, said Caron ominously. Though if you're worried about danger, then it should be Julian who gets the armor. Like Greg, Caron was keen on guarding his secrets, or rather he pretended that those secrets did not exist at all. The cake was finally concluded, and Bron was waiting in the kitchen with Lord Siegfried. And Bron felt rather foolish, and Lord Siegfried had analyzed the mystery dust, and surprise, it turned out to just be run-of-the-mill diamond dust. And Allan had a field day teasing Bron over their simple misunderstanding, though he did admit to having tried the bag dust with Greg once back in the tower. And when Helmer saw the two in the stairs, he cried non-stop for a week. And that was the first and last time Allan and Greg tried any dangerous substance, and even when they drank, they always did so in moderation. But Bron felt even worse when Greg entered the kitchen with the birthday cake and the candles. And Caron sang happy birthday to his brother, joined by Alice, Alexander, Lord Siegfried, and Regis. And everyone assembled, Bron felt quite pleased with the world. When the party was over, he went to the bedroom to tend to his marital duties. And Lord Siegfried went to his room without the help of anyone. And it pleased Caron to see his adopted father walking about, if only with a stick. Caron returned to the bedroom with Greg, and the pair bathed before going into bed, and by then the self-inflicted wounds on Greg's hands had healed. Greg, having finished first, was sitting by the bay window looking out into the ocean, and Caron noticed that Greg's tail was not wagging, rather it was between his legs. And during his trip with Allan, Caron had mentioned how Greg's tail acted like that of a dog. And Allan laughing commended Caron for their sagacity, and he told them that, like dogs, you can soothe Greg by stroking his tail. And Caron remembered that nonsense, stretched his hand, and he caressed the tail. Gregory flinched at the unexpected caress, but then he surrendered to the sweet tingling sensation rising up his spine. And Gregory said to Caron, If you're trying to get a rise out of me, then do continue. Oh, my apologies, said Caron, feeling rather foolish. And he added, I wasn't trying to make you angry, but Allan, why do I keep taking that idiot seriously? If you believe Allan, then you're the fool in this story, retorted Greg. And he sighed, and then he got up and went to bed. Caron soon followed after, washing his teeth and putting on his nightgown. And Greg was sitting in the bed looking quite distressed, and he had his hands around his knee with his head resting on top of them, Caron came to sit beside him, and then he asked, What's wrong, Mr. Needy? I wish you had not pulled at my tail, protested Gregory. Does it hurt? Oh, right, Bron stepped on it the other day, said Caron. My apologies. You should lie down. I'm just going to sit here and wait, and if this problem doesn't go away, then I might need some time alone in the bathroom, whined Gregory. Caron looked at Gregory from head to toe, and he could not put his finger on it, and the way that Greg spoke sometimes made him difficult to understand. Caron sat near Gregory, and he rested his head on his shoulder. Gregory signed, and then he changed his sitting position, and in this new position, Caron was able to see what was Gregory's current problem. Blushing, Caron said, "Well, that is a big problem you have there. It is an above average problem, but a problem nonetheless, and it is a problem that doesn't arise without provocation, and it doesn't go away without some type of intervention," said Gregory, moving away from Caron. "Caron is such an asshole," protested Caron. "Yes, but he is our asshole, so do show him some respect," protested Gregory. "I'm sorry, I should have guessed he was trying to trick me," Caron added. "I'm the one at fault, so let me help you with your problem. I have a basic idea. I think I can." "I'd rather you did not," said Gregory, moving further away from Caron. You don't love me, Anne." Caron drew near when he kissed Gregory in his mouth, and then he said, "If I didn't love you, I wouldn't put up with your nonsense, Gregory." "You love me, you do?" said Gregory, and his face lighted up, and he embraced Caron. And Caron grew somber, but he was thankful that Gregory was not able to see his worries. Caron did not know if the feelings he felt were the ones one calls love. And looking back, what he felt for Grimory was nothing but infatuation, a desire to be overpowered by a being far greater than oneself, to be consumed body and soul. Caron had mentioned this to Allan, who described that emotion as lust. Yes, Caron had lusted after Gregory, but he didn't love him because he did not know him. And what of poor Mr. Needy? Caron was aware of the basic facts of Gregory, but he truly knew nothing about him. And poor Greg. He must have suffered a lot due to his draconic nature. And two dragons that were unfortunate enough to be caught by mere mortals were turned into living weapons. And when they were of no use to anyone, they were murdered and turned into dragon-scale armors. And ever since he started taking care of Gregory, Caron had read all of the known information about true dragons in order to be able to understand his friend. Caron arranged the bed, and he made Greg comfortable, and he proceeded to open Greg's nightgown and then lower the undergarments, and this time Caron had a better idea what he was up to. He started creasing Greg, but then he remembered to maintain eye contact to observe the motions which produce the best reactions, and he was counting a more vociferous feedback, and Greg was surprisingly quiet about the entire affair, and only gasping from time to time. And confused and stubborn, he asked, "Would you prefer my hands instead?" And from a higher angle, Caron was able to see that Greg was panting, and blushing, Greg said, "It's fine, continue." "As you wish, Mr. Needy," said Caron, laughing, and then he resumed his kisses. "I'm getting really tired." Greg stopped his complaints to moan a bit, and this feedback encouraged Caron, who increased the momentum, and from time to time, and after some time, Greg was almost done with the workout, and he made a motion to push Caron away, but Caron caught his hands around his legs, and Greg's body stiffened, and then came finally his sweet relief. And in the other room, Bron was waiting for his wife to return from spying on Caron and Greg, and Alisa looked proudly as she saw that her recent lessons she had given Caron had not gone to waste. Caron knew what to expect from Alisa. She had described the taste of it, but Greg's passion was different from what he had expected. It was sweet. He rose from the bed languidly, and he helped Greg get dressed before washing his mouth. And Inanis crawled from under the bed, and she had a small box in her mouth, and Greg saw the box, and then he said to Inanis, No, the other box, not that one." And this time Inanis brought out a larger box, and when Caron returned, he saw that Greg holding a large box with a green ribbon. And Caron chuckled when he saw the present, and inside the box was a dress. And he looked over he had looked over the top in a store, but not buy it. A small ring he had been eyeing, a little teddy bear. A book he had looked over the top and not taken, and Greg shyly said, "You thought I had forgotten your birthday." "Well, I did, 'cause you never told me when your birthday was. So I sent Inanis to get these things, and if I did not guess right, I can return them tomorrow. And Inanis can get me the other box, not that one, the tiny one. Also got you this bottle, and it is the drink you usually order at the bar, and well, if you don't like that," said Greg, trembling. Caron was silent for a bit, and he was lost in sad thoughts of what he had imagined was Greg's life like. And when he broke out of his trance, he noticed a presence, and Greg was crying again, and he whispered, "I'm sorry, I can't do anything right." "Ah, poor Mr. Needy," said Caron, hugging him. "You tried too hard. I do appreciate the effort, though, and what I really would like from you is to know you a little better, and if you're comfortable enough to talk about it." Greg grew somber again, and Caron reassured him, said, I did not ask for your entire life story, just a little piece so that I can understand you better. I can tell you about Julian, said Greg. Even though he lives with his mother, he's still a very important part of my life, and Julia's happiness will always be my priority, regardless of my feelings for you, Caron. I can survive without you, but I can't live without Julian. He is your heart, after all, said Caron, smiling, and a man cannot live without his beating heart. And Greg's eyes started to glow red, and he said ominously, I am being serious, Caron, and I will kill you if you take away Julian's happiness. I am not a dull beast that can be controlled with treats and sweet words. Do you always threaten all your boyfriends, or just me in specific? Said Caron, scoffing at Greg's concern. I'm sorry, Caron. I know you're a good man, and I still remember how you were with Charlie. And I used to see you and Alyssa with him in the park, and when you held him, you seemed like the happiest person in the world. But he was your flesh and blood, and I'm just Greg, a guy you barely know. And yet you're so nice to me that I sometimes worry. And it isn't the first time that someone has been sweet to me, only to betray me. I am, said Greg, trembling before starting to cry again. Caron hugged Greg and rocked and soothed him, and smiling he said, Oh, Mr. Needy, you cry over every little thing. It's alright, I'm here for you, there. Alright, that's the end of that chapter. Bye-bye, God bless.